What's up, everybody? We are doing it. It is the final show from Radio Row. 2 hours of Gojo and Golic coming up right now. We're going to do a Super Bowl preview, maybe finally give our predictions. Plus, Hall of Fame inductees were announced. Very small class, smallest since 2005. And the MVP results have some people scratching their heads. All that and more. Great guests coming up right now.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Jesse Cofield here for our final day on Radio Row. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and watch us here most days, Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, all that fun stuff where you can catch up on everything that has happened this week. And, guys, we have made it to the finish line here. Our final day on Radio Row, as Jesse said, jam-packed with awesome guests here. We are going to have future NFL quarterback Jalen Milroe from the Alabama Crimson Tide joining us here. Jaden Daniels, the Offensive Rookie of the Year and star quarterback for the Washington Commanders, along with Ram star wide receiver Puka Nacua, Hall of Famer Joe Montana. It is a jam-packed day. We are looking forward to it.
And I almost made a fashion faux pas before the show. I almost wore – we got those shirts yesterday. So obviously you get free stuff all the time here during the week. I almost wore that shirt. We both got the shirt. I almost wore that shirt. That would have been bad.
Would have been the least surprising thing of all time.
I would be so happy if you guys had accidentally shown up in the same shirt.
Because one thing guys don't do is we don't bring extra clothes. That would have been it.
Yeah, no, not at all. That would have been it. No, one of you, would you have made Gojo go change?
No, absolutely not, because I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like those internet videos where girlfriends secretly get all their boyfriends the same shirt, and they show up to the party and they're pumped because we're morons. So that would be perfectly on brand for us here. Thankfully, cooler heads prevailed. Although, as we roll into this morning, and we've got a lot to talk to, as Jesse pointed out, NFL honors last night, some legitimately shocking results, both from the Hall of Fame class and in the award circuit. But my dad's out here flaunting the fact that last night he was out thotting late night here.
Yeah.
Armbands like it's his job.
Festival girly, okay.
You can't get these armbands off.
Okay, honey.
Yeah.
Okay? Listen, you saw me at breakfast this morning. I had the knife. I was trying to dig the knife in there. Jesse, I thought you had some scissors in your magic case.
I know.
Over there. You didn't.
I didn't.
So,
magic lady case.
The magic lady case.
Ooh, what's in here?
So these things, they put them on, and I guess what you said, Jesse, so you can't take them off and have them to somebody else. They're like handcuffs. They're like vice grips.
We do. It's weapons-grade wristbands for
unreal.
These parties now. Back when we were a proper country, it just used to be paper that I could rip off or carefully have on there and peel off to give to someone in line behind me.
What they put on our bags. What they put on our bags to show that they were checked. You can easily rip off. But yes.
Because the girlies would just take them off, and then you slide it back to your friend who's like, I was just having a cigarette. And then you can go in. And
see, is that what happens?
And then you're back in the VIP.
Whoa.
It's bottle service. It's coming over here.
Yeah.
It's Kelsey's birthday, and so they're bringing out the sparklers.
HBD Kelsey, you're crazy.
Okay, never really crossed my mind.
Happy birthday to the craziest girl I know.
It's just Kelsey.
It's just Kelsey.
Oh, my God.
It's just Kelsey.
So this is why these things are just stuck to my wrist.
Yeah.
And it's going to take a blowtorch to get them off.
Now it's free advertising because you have to wear them on the show.
Yeah.
Exactly. So congratulations to Athletes First and Ron Jaworski and Ditka's cigar party.
Yeah, it's good times, actually. Great cigars. Cigar parties.
And for you, proximity to the hotel. All my dad has talked about. Again, the entire Super Bowl week exists to serve my father and my father only. And last night you had Nirvana, a Super Bowl party that was literally in the courtyard next to your hotel.
It was. I put in the address during the day. I'm like, okay, I have 2 parties to go to. Can I walk to them? I'm praying I can walk to them. I put in the Jaworski and Ditka cigar party. By the way, a great cause. I'm on the board for that. Gridiron Greats, helping former players who are struggling financially. It's an absolutely phenomenal cause. But I put the address in, plugged it in, and it said 225 feet. I'm like, no. I'm like, did I put in the right address?
You're like, I'm at the party now.
I'm basically at the
Looking
party.
around your room, and there's just streamers everywhere.
And then
Kelsey's back here, HBD girl.
Oh, my God. You're crazy, Kelsey.
Holy smokes. And then the Athletes First party was 15-minute walk from the cigar party. I'm like, oh, my God, did I make out?
Mind blown.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
The best part about the Athletes First one is I walk in and I hear music playing, and it's like, a bunch of, it's a largely Notre Dame agency, so it's a bunch of people I know. And then I look over, I'm like, oh, who's DJing tonight? It's Ed Reed.
No.
Yeah. Hall of Famer Ed Reed just spit, quite honestly, a little too many slow jams. Ed needed to speed up the BPM a little bit.
But who's going to tell him?
No one's going to tell him.
No one's going to tell Ed Reed.
If Ed Reed wants
what
to
he's
DJ,
doing.
he gets to DJ.
Yeah,
So.
definitely different crowds, a lot younger crowd at the Athletes First party, and more my age crowd at the cigar party, and a ton of Eagle fans, obviously.
Sure, yeah, no, it was the worst thing I saw all night was an ice luge with a bunch of shrimp underneath it. By the end of the night, just wet shrimp, just sad wet shrimp underneath that. And the weirdest part is I saw someone go for them.
The soggy
like
shrimp.
11:30,
No.
someone went after the soggy shrimp. So as you can tell, we're running on fumes here right now.
We're running on soggy shrimp.
I did get a great surprise as I was leaving the cigar party to go to the Athletes First party. There, I passed the dessert, and there was like trays of king cake. I'm like, score!
You're like,
taking
couple
them
for the road.
That's exactly right. I did. I was walking with him, eating king cake, walking down a dark road.
King.
Everyone else in New Orleans worried about the to-go beverages. My father wants a little doggy bag of king cake.
Roadie king cake,
Because that's who he is, and that's what he cares about. I'm Big Tom Callahan. This is Gojo and Golic. And last night we had the NFL honors where every year we hand out all the hardware from the awards. Every other league, this has been the envy of what they've done. Others have tried to replicate it, but it hardly stacks up to the fanfare of this. And we get twofold the news. One, we get all the player awards from this year, and we get the Hall of Fame class. So, Dad, I want to start with the player awards, though, because last night I think a lot of people were legitimately shocked. I think most of us had handed the award to Lamar Jackson for the most valuable player of this season. And instead, Josh Allen takes home the hardware. The Bills star quarterback becomes the first player in 21 seasons to win MVP without being named a first-team All-Pro. That honor went to Lamar Jackson this year. Since the MVP was first handed out in 1957, the only other players that have done that have been John Elway in 1987 when Montana was first-team All-Pro, and then Steve McNair in 2003 when Peyton Manning was first-team All-Pro. So how surprised were you with that news?
Listen, it's not like I'm going to go, oh, my God, and start a revolt. I mean, I'm happy for Josh Allen. But I thought for sure Lamar Jackson separated himself in the end of the year. Remember, it's a regular season award. Playoffs have nothing to do with it. Regular season, the voting ends. I thought Lamar ended up with the better year. Again, is it Lamar fatigue? He already has 2. Josh Allen has none. I don't know if that, in fact, went through any voter's mind. They should have their vote taken away because that's a ridiculous thought process. But I was a little surprised. Happy for Josh,
I mean, Haley was on the red carpet.
Haley Steinfeld effect.
Outside of not making it to the Super Bowl, life's pretty good for him, right?
Life's pretty good.
Yeah, life is pretty good.
Hey, Voodoo?
Oh, Hey Voodoo.
That might be a thing, possibly.
I have no idea.
Not Tay Voodoo, Hey Voodoo.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The voting, very close for what it's worth. The AP voting, Josh Allen, 27 first-place votes to Lamar Jackson's 23. The overall vote tally, 383 votes for Josh Allen, 362 for Lamar Jackson. Saquon Barkley finishes a distant third with 120, and no first-place votes, which I thought was a little bit surprising. Dad, your point has always been the record seemed to be the tangible goal that would have made this happen.
If he would have gotten the record, I think he would have actually won the MVP award, but they sat him for that the 18th week, and he didn't get it. So I don't doubt he finished a distant third.
Yeah, no, I think ultimately, I would have voted for Lamar Jackson if I had a vote on this.
Right.
I'm a Heisman Trophy voter, but not an NFL
MVP
Not yet.
voter.
Ooh, Bigfoot.
I was going to say, dumbassing my way into vote seems like it would make sense there. But, yeah, Lamar Jackson probably would have been mine. I mean, won the MVP last year and went out and played better football in every conceivable way this season. For a team that was led by the offense this year, I think we go back to last year.
Right.
And while that offense accomplished a lot, Lamar Jackson's MVP was the tape grinder MVP. It was, the stats don't line up, but watch the game and see the impact he has. But the defense on the other side was the one putting up video game all-world numbers. This year, defense struggled to stop the deep pass.
Absolutely.
During the beginning of the season. And so Lamar, Derrick Henry, and that offense really took the next step. I'm surprised, but like you said, Josh Allen, what an unbelievable, deserving candidate in his own right.
And maybe they took into consideration that the Buffalo Bills really changed personnel this year. They had a lot of changes in the offseason to try and fulfill their destiny of winning a Super Bowl. So maybe that was in Josh Allen's favor, that there were a lot of different parts, and that's why I got it. But overall, I'm surprised.
I do agree with you. There 13 different players caught a touchdown for the Bills, sort of emblematic of the bet they made on that offense, that Josh Allen is now at the point where he can go out there and improve these guys. And so for Khalil Shakir, for Matt Collins, for Coleman, the rookie wide receiver, all of those guys, Keon Coleman, all of those guys being made better by Josh's presence in the way that we once didn't know was possible with him. He also extended his own NFL record of consecutive seasons with 40 passing and rushing touchdowns combined.
I mean, it's not like he's not deserving.
No,
right?
We know the dude is good, and
exactly.
he was on a team that was inches away from potentially being the AFC representative in this game, which, by the way, Dad, would you ever like to see the MVP factor in postseason results? The only sport that I know of that does this is college lacrosse, where you factor that into the Tewaaraton, which is the college lacrosse Heisman Trophy on the men's and women's side. You factor in postseason performance, because I think the thought for a lot of people is these guys almost always are better players on better teams. If we looked at the 3 finalists here, all of them were in the postseason. All of them could have added to that argument here. Where are you in that?
I could see an argument for it that says, hey, if you're one of the best players and your job is to lead your team to a title, but also you play 17 regular season games, and then the bulk of the award would go to 1 or 2 playoff games. And it would almost make the 17 games kind of inconsequential to what you did in the playoffs. So I would keep it a regular season award.
I disagree with that slightly, because, again, it's almost like your get-in price. Like, in order to get into that conversation, that final tier, what you do in the regular season obviously has to matter enough to get you to the postseason period. And then I think factoring that in the way we think about it, because I think in so many sports, this especially comes up in the NBA, where we've got the MVP, we know who it is, and then we've seen a lot of them over recent years fall flat in the postseason in a way that goes, all right, well, what did we just reward here? Why does this make sense that the best player that we just told everyone is here all of a sudden went to the postseason and got shown up by X, Y, or Z other player that was in range there?
But then you also get to the point where, just like the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Sure.
But the loss goes to him. It's unfair. It's unfair. In the playoffs, Josh Allen.
I'm not just saying the loss, though. I'm saying the play in those games also factored into it.
Right. But if you play well and lose, the loss still goes to the quarterback. And
it does, but I think in the MVP race, if Josh Allen, a couple of years ago, again, the whatever playoff year it was where we had the 13-second game, and people largely look at that as Josh's best postseason. I don't think an MVP voter is all of a sudden saying, well, just because you lost to the Chiefs, we're going to pretend like you weren't dynamic in that game.
Yeah, I would leave it a regular season award. You look at a guy in the regular season who didn't make the postseason. Where did Joe Burrow finish? Joe finished fourth.
Joe Burrow
he finished behind
fourth.
Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow.
He had a monster season.
We will get to the other awards here in the next block. Joe Burrow involved in that in a way that made some history. But I want to talk about the Hall of Fame class that was also announced last night at the NFL Honors here. Every year when we do this, the Hall of Fame class can induct 5 players. This year they only go with 4.
Right.
One of them, your former teammate, Eric Allen.
Very happy for EA.
Former Minnesota Vikings defensive end, Jared Allen. Former tight end for the San Diego Chargers, Antonio Gates. And then for the first time, a pair of brothers now enshrined in the Hall. Sterling Sharp, wide receiver and brother of Hall of Famer Shannon Sharp, gets in this class. First off, Dad, congratulations to this class. Awesome group, especially Eric Allen, your former teammate. I know he had been campaigning for this for a while, trying to get over that hump. You're big for him.
It had been his 19th year of eligibility.
Wow.
19th year. And, we've seen players in the past when it takes that long, they're like, oh, I'm not accepting it when I get in, because it's too long. And then they get in, and, of course, they accept it.
Of course they do.
Why wouldn't you?
As long as you're alive.
That's exactly
Don't be ridiculous.
You get a gold jacket and a bus. So I'm so happy for EA. 54 interceptions. That's 21st all-time. 14 of the 20 ahead of him are in the Hall of Fame. So he was a phenomenal cover corner, just a phenomenal cover corner. Did a great job. But this was the smallest class since 05 when 2 of the players were Dan Marino and Steve Young. But Jared Allen, 136 sacks. He's 12th. 10 of the 11 in front of him are in the Hall of Fame. The one who's not is Terrell Suggs, who was actually a finalist this year and didn't get in. Sterling Sharp just played 7 years. He had a neck injury that cut his career short. But he led the league in receiving 3 times, touchdowns twice, receiving yards.
So what year was this for Sterling on the list? Do we know?
That I don't know. And the one that is the amazing one is Antonio Gates. Gang, for those that don't remember, Antonio Gates did not play college football. Antonio Gates played basketball at Kent State. He led them in 2002 to an Elite 8 appearance in the NCAA tournament. And then went on to have a Hall of Fame NFL career. He was an undrafted rookie, and made the Hall of Fame. So great for him.
That one was obvious to me, right? Like Antonio Gates, for people of a certain age here, you grew up and it was him and Tony Gonzalez as this tandem we talked about at tight end. Him and for so long Phillip Rivers, that dynamic pairing between the two of them was kind of what we've had with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Obviously, this one's gone to another level, but Antonio Gates' numbers overall prolific there. Dad, the surprise here in the 4-man class was, I think, who was left on the cutting room floor. First and foremost, for a lot of people, Eli Manning was the name that people were, will they, won't they? He's got the 2 Super Bowl runs. He's obviously got the last name. Dad, I ultimately think the right decision that he was not a first-ballot Hall of Famer based on strictly the play and what he was as a player.
I agree. I did not think he was going to get in a first-time vote. He'll eventually get in.
Yeah.
We'll have brothers. We have the Sharp brothers. We'll have the Manning brothers. We'll have the Kelce brothers who are Hall of Fame. So we'll have some brother pairs eventually in the Hall of Fame. But I would not have put Eli in. Adam Vinatieri, the special teams, they always get screwed. It blows my mind. That these voters will not respect, and not just the kickers and punters, but special team players like a guy in my era, Steve Tasker, that they don't get the love that they deserve. I think that's ridiculous. But the biggest shock was Luke Kuechly.
I agree.
I'm stunned. I know it was a short, 8 years?
8 years.
I know, but
that's why I asked about Sterling. Now, I would make the argument. Now, you can speak to this more in his prime. Sterling Sharp and where he ranked among NFL wideouts versus Luke Kuechly, who for years you could have argued was the best off-ball linebacker in the sport pretty easily.
Well, Sterling Sharp, and again, in his 7 years, led the league in receptions 3 times, touchdowns twice, receiving yards 1 time. So,
all right, so you can make the argument.
You can make the argument, but he had to wait a little bit because, he just played 7 years. So that had to be the thing held against Luke Kuechly, right? The fact that he just played 8 years, because that dude is a surefire 100% Hall of Famer that I thought should have get on in the first year.
I did as well. Terrell Suggs, we could have also made a strong argument to make it this year. And no offensive lineman in this class was pretty interesting.
That line just keeps now getting longer.
And some big names. I mean, Willie Anderson won, legitimate snub here. The guard pipeline that's kind of a logjam right now. Jari Evans that people thought might get in before Marshall Yanda, who was eligible for the first time this year. It was surprising. Again, it's hard to weep too much because all the guys we just mentioned, they're going to have a gold jacket.
They're going to get in.
That is an if not when, but for some of these guys, they are waiting. And for guys, though, like EA, who wait that long time and finally get their number called, and we're going to see the videos spill out of the knock at the door that's become such a cool tradition with those guys. Congratulations. They deserved honor for everybody
Without
involved.
a doubt. It's got to be just an unbelievable honor to be recognized and was the greatest of all time. So happy for EA. Such a great, great guy who waited for his time, but now is right where he belongs, enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yep, exactly. And so plenty more for Eagles fans to cheer about this week as they get to see one of their own inducted into the Hall of Fame on a weekend where they're hoping that the rest of their own go out and punch their ticket and hold that Lombardi trophy. Coming up next, we will take a look at the other awards from NFL honors last night and talk to one of the award winners in Washington Commanders star rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels next.
You're watching Super Week on DraftKings Network, presented by T-Mobile.
Welcome back to Gojo and Golic, our final ride on Radio Row here down in New Orleans on a Friday. So we talked a little bit about NFL honors last night, the awards that were handed out. We dug into Josh Allen getting the MVP. Some of the other awards, Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse. But let's talk about Comeback Player of the Year, Joey B.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, second-time winner for comeback player of the year, or not second-time nominee for comeback player of the year.
No, he's second-time winner.
Second-time winner, yeah.
So since 1998.
Which, what?
Yeah.
He was like, not an award you really want to be winning
I was going to say,
twice.
it's not a great award to be winning.
He acknowledged it, but it was like...
Joe Burrow and Chad Pennington, since the award was reintroduced in 1998, the only players to win it twice. And yet, to Jesse's point, not great if you're the Cincinnati Bengals or Joe Burrow. Obviously, led the league in passing yards, led the league in passing touchdowns, was third in total QBR. It was a phenomenal MVP caliber season that was just sort of undermined by the rest of the team.
You just think about that offense. You had the leading passer in the league, the leading receiving yards in the league, and Jamar Chase in the league. Well, wait, did Trey Hendrickson end up leading in sacks, or did he get passed?
I believe he did, but I'll check that out right now.
I'm not sure if he got passed because they had the triple crown.
Vamp.
Of leading statistics. But, yeah, Joe Burrow, that is not an award you want to keep winning.
Yeah, it was 2021 when he won it last time. It's just...
Yeah, but at least it's off of an injury, because it used to be if a guy got cut and was a backup and came back, he'd be eligible, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It should be off of an injury, which unfortunately for Joe, he's had a few major injuries.
Yeah.
Just for the point of parliamentary procedure, Trey Hendrickson did win the sack title by 3.5 sacks. Myles Garrett, the next closest at 14. Trey Hendrickson, 17.5 sacks this season. So the Bengals had great individual performers. Unfortunately, did not translate into the team success that they wanted here. The one that jumped off to me, how about Jared Verse? The first-round pick for the Los Angeles Rams since 2016.
Whoa.
They mortgaged their whole future for the present for so long, and when they finally got back in the first-round pick game, ho-hum, they picked not only the Defensive Rookie of the Year, but then after that, go down and draft Braden Fisk. I forget if he was in the back end of the first round or early in the second round, but then he is also a finalist for Defensive Rookie of the Year. So once the Rams decided they were doing the draft again, they did the damn draft again.
And think of the guys they got, the Kobe Turners of the world before that. I mean, the youth they have, we actually did not bring up Aaron Donald's name a whole lot, because of the way this defensive front was playing. Aaron Donald's a walk-in Hall of Fame, one of the great. He belongs in the big room of interior D linemen in the Hall of Fame. But Jared Verse had 4.5 sacks, and I do think there has been a shift in the NFL where pressures has become bigger than sacks. He had 76 pressures. He was 4th in the league in pressures. He had 20 more pressures than the next closest rookie. So, I mean, he was just an absolute terror. Had a great year, but you're right. Once they started drafting again, after it worked, they mortgaged all the draft picks. Right. They won a Super Bowl, so it worked. Now they're making great hay with their draft picks.
Yeah, that part to me was amazing, going back and really taking into consideration how long it had been since we had seen them just fully take the first day of the draft off, just not even show up for night one stuff. Sean McVay's in the sexy house in Los Angeles. They're making beach parties because they got all this free time, and now they actually get back down to brass tacks, and it works out very, very well for them. Other awards, Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell goes out and gets it done. The Vikings win total, a single-digit win total early in the season. He ends up winning 13 or more games for the second time in his 3-year career as a head coach. Doing it this year, obviously, with the backdrop of the injury to J.J. McCarthy that ultimately has Sam Darnold leading a renaissance season. And unsurprising here, thought maybe late in the season Dan Campbell, especially with the head-to-head win, had a chance to snatch this. That surprised me a little bit.
And again, it's a regular season award, so the Detroit losing in the postseason would have nothing to do with it. Yeah, I was surprised. Again, it's not one of those I'm not going to scream to the high heavens. To me, I think one of the more surprising ones is Defensive Player of the Year.
Pat Surtain
II, the DB for Denver. I mean, he had only, not even near the top in interceptions. He had 4 interceptions, but he always covered the top receiver. And according to NFL Next Gen stats, he surrendered the fewest receiving yards of anyone at his position this season, allowed the second lowest passer rating when targeted, and had the lowest expected points added per target. So, I mean, he had a monster year, and a lot of times with DBs, it may show up with interceptions that year. You get a lot of interceptions, but also if they're not throwing your way and you're shutting the guy down and you lead the league in least amount of yards given up receiving, you know who notices that? offenses.
I think that's why having the ways that we have to measure this now, the stats you mentioned, both acknowledging that pressures are an important factor in disruption, all the things that you just read about the deep analytics we can have about guys that cover on the back end. These positions that like O-line are a little bit harder to quantify in certain instances, and in the past, we now have a better opportunity for that. So was great stuff by him. Awesome to see defensive backs get their due. Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley, unsurprising. We mentioned third in the MVP, but Jaden Daniels takes home the Offensive Rookie of the Year after a sensational rookie campaign that led the Washington Commanders all the way back in the vibes department, all the way to the NFC Championship, and led Jaden Daniels all the way to Radio Row here at Super Bowl 59. We had a chance to catch up with him. Here he is. Jaden Daniels, star rookie quarterback for the Washington Commanders, former LSU Tiger great back down here in the boot, man. How's it feel to be home?
It feels awesome. Second time in a couple months. I was just out here when we played the Saints.
Sure.
So be able to come back, man, and enjoy the town again. You kind of miss the food down here.
I can imagine. A little bit different going up to D.C. there, not quite the same flavor to it.
Man, it's great food in D.C., man, but, down here, man, I miss some seafood.
It's different food here, that's for sure. Something we all, when we come in and visit for the week, we overindulge and then we, pay for it. Pay for it a little bit.
Absolutely, man. So, all right, you get to come back down here and reflect a little bit in that way, but talk to me about how you're feeling coming off of year one here. Obviously, a phenomenal run for you guys. Fall just short of getting to this game, which, I don't know, was that a disappointment, or are you able to appreciate what you guys were able to put together in year one? Where are you at on how you've processed this first season?
A little bit of both. Disappointed because, you're right there, and we believe that we should have an opportunity playing this game. Obviously, it didn't happen, but we believed it, so it was disappointing, like, man, one game away. But we appreciate the season that we had, man. Just the joy that we brought back to the DMV.
So you make the move, you finish a great college career, you make the move to the NFL, and it's like a seamless, transfer. Talk about the beginning of it, taking over, being named the starter when it became your huddle, and just going from college to the pros and the differences.
Man, you got to earn the respect of your teammates, and that's the main thing that Washington allowed me to do, is go out there and earn it. So when I got announced starter, it was kind of like, okay, everybody knew who I was, what I was about, and just went out there and continued to build each and every day. And it takes time, but as far as that, we just went out there and we just put our head down and grinded every day.
Brian Thomas Jr. has a great year. I mean, watching those guys, and we saw they showed up for you in the postseason. How cool was that to feel that support from your brothers?
It was awesome. They surprised me with that too. So I know they have brought it up, and it's just been awesome now to compete with them. Our rookie years, we all, we're trying to compete against each other. Like, okay, who wants this award? Who's going to get it? Who's going to be the best rookie? So it's been dope just to talk to them and see their transition too.
We go through talk about growing pains as a rookie, especially a quarterback who have to know everything. And C.J. Stroud kind of broke the curve last year by playing incredibly well. And you did it this year with a number of number one high draft choice quarterbacks. But it's not a perfect transition, I'm sure. What were the biggest hurdles for you to overcome taking over an NFL team?
One, you just got to grasp the locker room. Especially being a young guy, you go in a locker room where somebody might be 34 with a family and stuff like that. So it's kind of just trying to close that gap of what y'all have in common. And it's the main thing, man, how long an NFL season really is. People don't understand that until you actually get into it. Whereas, like, I remember watching college, they're like last game of the season, and we're like week 9. So
is that rookie wall real?
Kinda. I mean, I wouldn't even say like a rookie wall. It just depends how you go about it. But it's like it could, if you don't reset or know how to reset. Like DQ told me, like, man, you got to go out there and reset. You work so hard. It's like, you got to take some time for yourself so you're able to keep pushing through it at the end of the year. But if you can have a rookie wall, I think it's just a mindset type of thing.
College games going to 15, 16 games a year now, though, with the 12-game schedule or 12-team playoff.
Now it is. Oh, those kids might be more prepared than us.
Yeah.
You mentioned DQ there. Why was Dan Quinn the perfect coach for you guys? Why was it able to work so well in year one?
Man, everybody I talk to, man, they have nothing but the utmost respect for DQ. Just who he is as a person. He cares about his players, and I could attest to that, man. He cares about everybody in that locker room, no matter if you're the star or your practice squad, he treats everybody the same.
How does he show that to you? Like, how did he show you he cared about you at quarterback?
Man, for me, he just, like I said, he made me go earn everything, and nothing was given to me. There's times where it's like, okay, I want to go out there and be able to compete, but he was like, man, no, you got to earn it. Like there's guys in this league that earn their stripes, and you got to go out there and earn yours.
So and then let's drill down more to a coach you actually spend the most time with, Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
And how quickly you guys got on the same page.
Man, I knew Cliff before, so we kind of had that relationship from there. But Cliff is a competitor just like me. He hates losing, so just be able to have that in common and just that open communication as far as like, man, Cliff, I don't like this play. I don't think this is going to work. And, just having that dialogue. We had some back and forth, but it wasn't really that much.
I certainly notice it in watching and analyzing young quarterbacks. Forgetting even stats early on, your poise was amazing. Nothing affected you. Where did that come from?
I just think that's just how I was raised. Football is fun. Like obviously it's a business, but if you try to make it too hard or anything like that, that's kind of where you lose your confidence and stuff like that. Like football's not gonna be perfect. You're gonna have ups and downs. You have a bad game. You have a good game. It's just how do you move on to the next.
So, speaking of making football fun, in college, no one seemed to have more fun than you. One of the areas where people thought maybe you have a little less fun was putting your body on the line here. You had an ability to yeet yourself into people in a way that I had never seen. The NFL seemed to be a lot less of that. How conscious of an effort was that for you to maybe pull back in spots where before you would have just thrown your body on the line to try and make a play?
You got to play 17 games and even more. So, man, you got to be available.
Did Dan or Cliff ever pull you aside and say, hey, easy?
DQ for sure. DQ for sure. He was like, I remember preseason game, I ran, and he was like, get down. Like, he was screaming on the sideline, get down. So, for sure.
Message received early on here. So, let's talk about one of the teams in this game that you guys saw in the NFC Championship in the Philadelphia Eagles. You saw them twice in the division during the year here. What is it about this team that stood out to you guys as you prepared for them and why they're here on Super Bowl Sunday?
One thing, I want to say shout out to Invisalign. That's what I'm with today.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. We're going to give you plenty of time for that. Don't worry.
Sure.
Yeah, we're good.
But Philly, man, I mean, that's a great team. Everybody watches that. Everybody knows who they are as a team. They got stars everywhere. And playing them 3 times this year, man, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. But for us, man, you just go out there, you try to limit the mistakes that you guys make. They feed off the negative plays. They got great players. You got Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, that was first-team All-Pro, people like that, Slay, Quinyon's doing this thing, Cooper. So they got guys that can make plays, but they feed off the negative plays, man.
No doubt about it. Well, you guys made a lot of positive plays this year. I know for you personally, you mentioned positive play you made for yourself here. You're here with the folks at Invisalign. So tell me how much they've meant to you in the journey.
It meant a lot, man, especially being a quarterback. Biggest thing, is your appearance. So, with the smile, everything on and off the field, just have the confidence. They blessed me enough to allow my mom to be a part of the team too, so she could be confident with her smile. So that's been huge for me.
Man, taking care of mom, nothing better than that.
And
I'm
the
sure,
quarterback getting all this. Forget the old former linemen, the linemen, the grunt works.
No one cares what our team
does.
I know. They expect ours to be
We love the O-line over here. We love the O-line
I'm sure
I was going to say, man, you had a hell of a group in front of you this year and a hell of a first season. So, Jayden, congrats on all the success, man. Enjoy this week. Congratulations to Jaden Daniels, now officially the Offensive Rookie of the Year. And officially, I saw the highlight yesterday on Pat McAfee's show. Jaden was talking about how a guy had come up to his mom on the plane and said, your son changed my life. It was Charlie Kravitz, the producer of the Dominique Foxworth show, one of our good friends and former colleagues at ESPN, media member walking up to Jaden's mom right next to him on the plane. Your son changed my life.
My God.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, incredible.
Also, not wrong for a lot of people in the DMV. So happy for Charlie, happy for Jayden, happy for us as we continue to roll along here leading up to Super Bowl Sunday. It's Gojo and Golic finishing off the week at Radio Row.
You're watching Super Week on DraftKings Network, presented by T-Mobile.
Welcome back to Gojo and Golic down here in New Orleans. Yesterday, the fellas had the amazing opportunity to catch up with Jalen Milroe. Take a listen to that.
We're getting to the fun part of the week where we get the real stars starting to show up here, the stars of today, the stars of tomorrow, and kind of now with the way things have gone in college football, the stars of right now have been here. Jalen Milroe, kind enough to join us now, former Alabama Crimson Tide quarterback, getting ready to make that jump to the next level on behalf of Auto Trader here today. Jalen, how you feeling, man? How's it going?
I'm feeling good. It's great to be in New Orleans right now. Especially, here for the Super Bowl. So it's definitely an exciting moment for me, getting the first-hand experience, just being around the environment. But everyone's been cool since I've been here, so it's been a lot of fun.
How does it feel now after a great career at Alabama, getting the highest of the highs, now back to basically the interview process again of trying to show yourself physically, improve yourself to people?
Yeah. So I try to narrow my focus and just each day just trying to attack each and every day and seize every opportunity to get better. And so I'm in Orange County, California, training, doing draft prep with Mike White and Jordan Palmer. And so we're just trying to pour each and every day to our toolbox, just trying to build, just seizing every opportunity. The best thing about right now is that there's no shot clock. Yeah. And so there's so much time you can build as a person on and off the field. And so I've been able to do that out in Orange County. So I think it's so important just being around the right people. And so I'm around the right people when it comes to the support system and also the physical attributes of just trying to improve as well. And so that's helped a lot. And so it's just been a lot of fun during this process.
Yeah, being around the right people, you had a lot of those at Alabama, certainly both as teammates and as coaches. You make that transition from Nick Saban, one of the greatest of all time, to Kalen DeBoer coming in this last year. What did you learn from each of them along the way there that you think is going to help you to jump to the next level?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the standard that you present yourself. When I talk about the standard, it's the standard of excellence that you want to achieve. And so when you're trying to achieve that, you try to separate your mindset into pillars. And so it's short-term goals, long-term goals that you want to accomplish, and trusting the process along that way. And so during my time at school, there's been time where I've been a starter. There's been a time where I wasn't a starter. And so one memory that I have with being not on the field is that you're always getting a rep, mentally and a physical rep. And so during that process, y'all are trying to get better. And so when you talk about 1%, want to know the cliche mottos there are in the world, if you're doing that, you're going to improve and get better each and every day on your process. And so Coach DeBoer and Coach Saban, the standard of excellence is always there. The trust in the process, just always trying to improve. The biggest thing that we talk about as a coach is demanding and critiquing and getting the best out of each and every player, and they do that. And so we're just trying to improve and try to get better and just acknowledge that it's a marathon when it comes to being a football player, especially at the quarterback position.
But always being ready when your chance finally comes to know you're ready. So, again, the difference of when you're the quarterback, you're working on game plans every week. You're certainly working on your game individually, but you're working on game plans, the opponent, the defense, and all that. Now it is solely you. It is solely working on you. What have you learned about your game while you've been working on just you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to answer your question, I think this is such an important phase of my life as far as trying to be the best version of myself so that I'm able to lead properly. I'm able to step into whatever organization I'm blessed to be a part of with my best foot forward. And so right now in California, it's big just to be around Jordan Palmer and Mike. We're just refreshing and just trying to improve. And so one thing that we're just trying to do is being efficient in everything that we do as a passer. Being able to make each and every throw when it comes to on platform, off platform, being aligned to our target, strengthening all areas of our body as far as being a passer of the football. And so one thing that's unique about playing quarterback, there's so much that you can still pour into your game. And one firsthand experience is watching greats in the NFL that played a long career in the league and just seeing that they had an opportunity to keep on getting better. And so one thing that I just committed to is that the day that I retire from football is the day I stop learning when it comes to playing the game. Until then, there's so much things I can still pour into the game and try to learn as much as possible. And so like you mentioned, this is a unique time because this is the only time you can really pour into yourself, invest in yourself, and try to be the best version of yourself.
And this is a process in investing in yourself. You're also trusting this process that you're on right now. Mobile, the Senior Bowl, big step for everyone, especially for you guys with less time coming off the season than ever before here. What was the feedback you got in talking to and being around NFL coaches, NFL personnel that week?
You know, stepping in and going into that week, it's all about being coachable because there's so much knowledge that was on the field and in the film room when it comes to being a player. And so I was just soaking up all the information I was able to have because they have the knowledge base that we haven't had as players as far as being in the NFL. This is a new process for us. And so number one was stepping up and being coachable. Number two was learning and growing on the field. And lastly, having exposure to the NFL environment because at the end of the day, the guys that we're competing with are going to be on opposite ends or maybe on the same sideline when it comes to being in the NFL. And so that only betters us as players being around great players. And so I had a first-hand experience of that being in Alabama, being in the best of the best around the whole entire country. And so I can definitely say it was a great experience and something that I'm definitely appreciative of.
Describe that environment to people that have never been in there because so many people have looked at Alabama from the outside and what you guys and that team have been for so long. Describe the competitive environment with the kind of guys you have in that locker room and what that's like and how it pushes you.
No, absolutely. I think the best thing about Alabama is the standard that we present for everybody in the building. You know, you have freshmen holding seniors accountable, vice versa, seniors holding freshmen accountable. It's just the accountability piece, the discipline, the effort, the commitment piece, the amount of pride we play in. That's what separates us from other programs, that standard that we have for each other. And so, you know, for me, I coming in just seeing the veterans that stepped up and just were able to achieve a lot of great things.
When Nick was the coach, you ever go to bed at night go and say, man, I can't play for this guy?
Yeah, was there like a welcome to Nick Saban moment that you had coming on campus?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'll never forget, I stepped on the campus, and when I stepped on the campus, the season before they won the national championship. So I enrolled after the 2020 national championship. Yep. And us as mid-year enrollees, we're excited. Like, man, it was like, we're like, okay, like we're stepping into a program that just won a national championship. We're going to be around a lot of great guys, like dudes that have a lot of talent. And so us as enrollees, we come in and we had our first meeting with Coach Saban, and we're excited. Like, we're ready for him to get in. Like, we're just smiling. And he walks in. He said, let me get this thing straight. Y'all didn't do nothing about our team last year. Y'all had nothing to do with that. Y'all going to have to prove each and every day that y'all are capable of winning the national championship.
Okay, put in my place.
Man, for real? y'all my welcome to college moment with Coach.
So while there are great quarterbacks, there are no perfect quarterbacks. So what does Jordan and Mike have you working on the most to improve upon?
Yeah, for sure. I think getting my body in the best position to make every pass possible on the football field, and it all focuses on alignment. Alignment to your target. That's number one, but also putting your body in the best position to make an efficient throw, and just distributing your body properly when it comes to lower mechanics of throwing the football, because some quarterbacks are upper body dominant, some quarterbacks have a delay when they throw the ball, and so all us as quarterbacks throw differently. And so it's not about replicating another quarterback representing somebody else. It's all about what makes you unique in your own way. And so being able to put a deep down analysis of what exactly that we need to do as a passer of the football. And so, like I mentioned, like, there's no shot clock. So we just pouring each and every day to try to get better. And I definitely can say I got better.
Does it get frustrating getting ready to go through this process, hearing people bring up stuff like hand size and measurements and things like that going out now when you've got all this tape, you've got all this stuff, you're talking about ability there. Does that part of the process get frustrating for you at all?
I can throw the damn ball. So.
See? Funny how that works out, right? It's gotten you this far, can throw the damn ball. And you know what? You can throw the damn ball. You're also out here representing Auto Trader this week. So what can you tell us about what you got going on with these guys?
No, absolutely. So I had a experience of going through a phase of trying to purchase a vehicle, and it's definitely a stressful process trying to find a perfect price, find the car they exactly want. And so I was able to use Auto Trader, easy access. I was able to go through there, find the car that I wanted, and I was able to purchase a vehicle last spring. And so I have experience of using Auto Trader.
What'd you go with?
I went with a Porsche Panorama.
Ooh, okay.
See, at all my years of playing and at my age, I have trouble getting down into a car, as opposed to up into a car. But, man, that's a sweet ride.
I appreciate now that in the day and age of name, image, and likeness, we are getting college players that come into the NFL and know how to spend the money the right way on the right things here. So, Jalen, congrats on an incredible career, man. You've been a ton of fun to watch all the way. You can throw the damn ball, and we're excited to watch you get the chance to do it on Sundays here real soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks,
absolutely.
Man.
Thanks, Jalen. So we take a look at the top-graded quarterbacks in the draft class according to PFF. Cam Ward, number 1 on most people's boards. Back and forth with Shedeur Sanders at number 2 at Colorado, Dylan Gabriel at number 3 out of Oregon, and then Jalen Milroe at 4 out of Alabama. And, Dad, last couple of years, kind of a roller coaster ride, right?
Yeah.
Incredible talent at the position, probably the best athlete on every field he's ever stepped on. And with the quarterback stuff, you go from Tommy Rees and Nick Saban 2 years ago when they make the run to the CFP. And then this last year, you've got Kalen DeBoer that comes over. The offense changes some here. And we know for Alabama, less in the results than they're used to on the field. And so some of that, unfortunately, gets reflected on the quarterback.
Yeah, it's there are 2 quarterbacks graded for the first round, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. But it's always interested how many actually go in the first round. Are they overdrafted? Will somebody make it into the first round, either Dylan Gabriel or Jalen Milroe or Will Howard, who's ranked 5th? This gets to the point of the year. You know me in this stuff. I just, like he said, he can throw the damn ball. There's a ton of tape to look at for really all these quarterbacks. All these quarterbacks have a lot of experience. Now, again, does that mean nothing should be rated? No. I think the meetings with the teams are important. When you go for your visit to a team and they give you a playbook the night before and some plays to regurgitate, at the blackboard, I understand that.
40 times?
No, not
short
40
shuttle.
times. No, not short shuttle, and certainly not throwing the ball in shorts and a T-shirt. I'm sure
I want
it's
to see how it comes off his hands. Snap and pop.
They just want to zoom in on the hands.
Yeah, just slow-mo that thing. The spin rate coming off that Coriolis effect, the curvature of the earth.
It will be interesting how many of these guys throw it, because there are really only 2 that are thought to be going in the first round. So how many will try and throw themselves into the first round, which, again, is a ridiculous statement. But
it happens.
I know. And these guys have to play the game.
Yes.
They have to run the 40 and do the short shuttle and the vert and all that stuff and get their hands measured and blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you, if you can't go on the end of the season scouting report of a quarterback, and if it changes, now, as I'll continue to say, if it changes after meetings, and from the neck up in situations where you actually get to sit down with a quarterback and go over things, I get it. But as far as the play, anything that changes after the season, to me, is a joke.
Well, that joke is going to continue at the NFL Combine coming up at the end of February, early into March here. I hope we get to see Jalen Milroe run. Just, selfishly, part of this is also I love getting to watch great athletes do freak athletic things. And Riley Leonard in this quarterback class from Notre Dame is a guy who I think could put up good numbers running. It's fun to see them go out and put those tools on display. So very much looking forward to that in the process. But like you said, Jalen Milroe, when you look at the tape, flawed quarterback. Accuracy issues at times.
Right.
Someone that maybe relies on that athleticism a little bit too much, but all the intangibles. We sat up here with him. He walked off set with us, and we were all kind of awestruck at, again, the Alabama guys, what a complete product they are in terms of the way they talk about the game, the way that they're indoctrinated into that culture around there, all things that make a lot of sense. Speaking of things that make a lot of sense, Jesse Cofield getting the hell out of here after this hour. Got a flight to catch today. A wrap on the week here at Radio Row. Jesse, how are you feeling coming off this week?
Wow.
Physically, mentally, emotionally?
I mean, heart so full spending the week with you guys up here. It's been so much fun, and I'm really tired, and I can't wait to go home and just crash. Just kidding. Going home to my small children, so not going home to go crash. But excited to get home nonetheless. Great experience out here with you guys. Just love you guys.
So much. So very, very much.
Isn't that nice? So nice.
It's so true, though. Much like we always talk about with parents after like a night out drinking and your kids don't care that you're hungover.
Oh, my God.
Your kids are not going to care one bit that you just came back from a week of doing this.
It's going to be playtime. Playtime with mom.
Yeah, playtime with mom. They've been sick a little bit, so it might be throw-up time on mom. We'll
Oh,
find out.
yeah.
Great stuff.
There we go. Well, safe travels to our very own Jesse Cofield after a phenomenal week out here. The Four Seasons Massage Parlor will miss you
they will.
desperately after this week. We'll be back with plenty more in hour number 2 here on Gojo and Golic next. Welcome back to Gojo and Golic. A bit more history, surprise, surprise, for the legend of one LeBron James, who became the oldest player in NBA history to score 40 points at 40 years and 38 days old. About a month older than Michael Jordan when he scored 43 in February of 2003 for the Wizards at 40 years and 4 days old. LeBron had 42 points, 17 rebounds, and 8 assists in the Lakers' win over the Warriors. He also now is the oldest player to score 40 or more points and the youngest player to score 40 or more points, and one of the most LeBron James stats of all time, continuing to add to the most prolific resume in NBA history. We'll add to our coverage of the Super Bowl with the acrostic next. Safe travels home. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Gojo and Golic here on Radio Row. Mike Golic Jr. and Mike Golic Sr. And it's one of those tough moments where you have a plan in your head and you're excited about it, and then you zoom back out a little bit and you realize how you're perceived. We're getting ready to do the acrostic poem preview of Super Bowl 59. It's something we've done for NFL games every year. Our producer Samir took a crack at writing the poem this week, excited to debut that. And normally Jesse Cofield, who just left on a flight, does this while wearing the acrostic hat. It's kind of a slam poetry looking hat. We didn't have that on the road here.
We didn't bring it.
And so we thought, all right, we'd try this out. We're looking around for something hat worthy, and I think a remnant of the Nickelodeon folks that were around here, the slime helmet.
Yeah.
And so I put the slime helmet on over the top of my headphones, which is fine here. I feel all right about that. Until all of a sudden people start walking by, and Brady Quinn, who's a former Notre Dame quarterback I respect, I just had to make eye contact with LeVar Arrington and try and do that. I really don't like the way that makes me feel to see the disdain in their eyes.
They had looked at you as a respected member of the media until they saw this.
I don't know if that's even necessarily true, but the respect definitely dropped even more.
Without a doubt.
So that was a tough scene.
But you're wearing it. Listen, I give you credit. You kept it on.
One thing about me is I'm a commit to a bit.
You are.
And one thing about this show is we're going to commit to a bit. And so, Dad, are you ready after a full week of talking around the game to actually
talk about the game?
Talk about the game a little bit.
Time to break it down a little bit.
We can't put it off any longer here. The Super Bowl 59 Golic acrostic poem starts now. G is for glory, potentially never achieved. O is for offensive lines that leave defenses aggrieved. L, legs that have launched Barkley to a run never before seen. I for interceptions, a stat during the playoffs in which both QBs have been clean. C is for champions that will shower in Lombardi sheen. The Golics are here, full hearts of Irish green, to break it all down and tell us what it means.
Wow, it's well done.
Wow, all right.
It's well done.
First rattle out of the box here. Give the man his flowers, Samir. Hell of an effort there, brother.
It's well
Feeling
done.
it right now.
Well done.
I'm going to leave the slime on here. I've already weight balanced for it. It's like the first day of training camp when you're just in helmets. My neck's going to be sore as hell.
So sore.
It's just
sore.
Heavy enough to register on the Richter
First
scale.
3 days of training camp and your neck is just brutal.
Oh, God help us all here. From training camp to now. All right, Dad. G, glory potentially never achieved, including the playoffs. Kansas City and Philadelphia have combined a win percentage of 87% win percentage. It's the second highest combined win percentage entering a Super Bowl in the last 30 seasons, according to ESPN stats and info. So on the cusp of some pretty impressive stuff here. The three-peat for Kansas City would be a potential 4th Super Bowl MVP for Patrick Mahomes, and Saquon Barkley 30 yards away from the most in NFL history, regular season and post.
Obviously, this has, while the Eagles are going to try and win, they put on a Super Bowl ring. Yeah, they're going to breaking it down. The legacy here is the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is going for a first time ever for a three-peat, and Patrick Mahomes just adding to his. I mean, we just literally saw statistically the GOAT retire, Tom Brady, and already we're talking about Pat Mahomes potentially catching Tom Brady at some point.
I think one of those things, like, obviously GOAT debates are somewhat subjective.
Yes.
And they account for so much that we can't. But at the very worst now, we've already talked about it, Patrick Mahomes in terms of playoff wins, which, again, are not totally a quarterback stat, but, man, they influence a lot, especially when you come on the way he did, where you were so clearly the driving force at the beginning. He's at worst on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest quarterbacks of all time already, correct?
Yeah, I mean, he is.
It's hard to dispute. Him, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and then you can kind of cycle through
the fourth. Yeah, I would agree with that. He has put himself there, and he's not even 30. I mean, my God, it's ridiculous of where potentially it could go. And again, how close we talk about the GOAT Tom Brady and how, let's say quickly, it'll take a couple of years for him to actually be looking in the rearview mirror and saying, okay, that object appears closer than normal, and Pat Mahomes just zooms by him.
Yeah, I understand that we have dynasties in almost every era of the NFL. You know, the Steelers going back in the 70s, the Cowboys in the 90s, the Patriots in the 2000s and aughts, but it really does feel like, especially having a player of this caliber, another weapons-grade quarterback that seems to answer the bell in every big moment, huge on that side. The other side, we talked about this with Jared Verse before, how in insane it is that, the Rams didn't draft in the first round for 2016 until now and then immediately hit in a first rounder. Saquon Barkley had toiled in anonymity for the most part.
Right.
Obviously, individual talent shined through. But year one with a real team to be on the cusp of this is pretty insane, and just a reminder of circumstance for even the greatest players dictating so much.
Yeah, it's and he came onto the scene just guns a-blazing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't kind of slowly build his way up. He came on and just wowed everybody. Now, a couple of these Super Bowls, the defense has led the team, kind of just like Tom Brady.
Sure.
It's difficult to win all those just on offense, but that's how you win a Super Bowl. You have complementary offense and defense.
Well, speaking of complementary offensive players, let's talk about, the offensive lines that have been so great during this run here. Dad, more impressive to you, the Philadelphia Eagles and just the sheer tonnage of their offensive line, what they've done in replacing a Hall of Famer in Jason Kelce with Cam Jurgens at center and never missing a beat en route to blocking for Saquon Barkley in just the 9th 2,000-yard rushing season in NFL history, or what we've seen from the Chiefs with Joe Thuney in this playoff run, kicking out to left tackle after being an All-Pro and Pro Bowl guard to help solidify that line.
Well, from an individual standpoint, Thuney kicking out to left tackle is the story. Is unbelievable. Again, an All-Pro at left guard, but to go from inside to outside in the island that you're on is just incredible what he has done. And they have a healthy left tackle now that they're not putting in there in DJ Humphrey, and they're leaving Thuney out there. And Mike Caliendo is playing left guard. But overall, you have to give the Eagles' offensive line. They're massive.
Yeah.
They're a massive, outside of Cam Jurgens, who's a little over 300 pounds, every other guy is over 330 and a couple of guys at 360. They're massive, and they just lean on you. That's why Saquon's numbers in the second half have been so impressive. They just lean on you and just wear you down.
Yeah, and for this offensive line in this game, Joe Thuney's still going to be out there where he's been all during this run. Since moving out to left tackle, he's allowed a 10.3% pressure percentage across 194 pass block snaps over that span, including the playoffs, and that's been against some really good defenses like the Houston Texans and others in that run that have really challenged him there. Dad, I do think important notes for this game, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, both good to go at their original positions. Landon Dickerson in the NFC Championship game, remember, started at center because of the injured Jurgens. Jurgens had to come in the second half because of the injury to Dickerson, so they're going to be back in their spots. Important for communication because with Landon Dickerson in there, physically imposing at center, but they struggle with some of the protection stuff in the middle, and Spags the final boss of presenting problems for you structurally on defense.
That'll be something to keep an eye on during the game, those two's physical health, and will they be able to play the whole game, or will they have to switch positions?
Yep.
And I just am loving the potential matchups. Now, we know Chris Jones moves from interior to outside, so up against Lane Johnson when he's at the edge, up against Mekhi Becton. I mean, that's just a lot of beef hitting one another when they play there. And then on the other side, Jalen Carter
and Trey
Smith. I mean, wow.
That's to me, that one was the most interesting in terms of morale for both teams, because you know this, when you look and see the best player on your team getting their ass kicked, it can do something to you where you're going, all right, if he's losing, what's going to happen to me?
Right.
And one of those guys is going to decide that vibe shift for their team, both kind of the emotional and physical leaders up front in terms of the tone that they set. So plenty to keep an eye on with those groups. Matchups in the trenches going to be a hallmark of the Super Bowl. Let's go legs. Saquon Barkley generated a plus 496 rush yards over expected in the second half of games this season. That's the most by any player in a season since 2018. What we hear all the time, Dad, running back gets stronger as the game goes along, finisher, whatever. A lot of times that is if your team is in a position to win and close the door. We talked yesterday, I talked to some former O-linemen about this, that notion of, hey, that 4-minute offense to really finish off a game. Having that opportunity and the ability to slam the door the way Saquon Barkley has done has been huge for this Eagles run.
Again, and listen, we know on the other side of the ball, Pat Mahomes can do it as well. He and Andy Reid. But just again, as I'll always say, as a former D lineman, there's nothing worse than getting run on, especially when you know they're going to run to control the clock, when they're protecting a lead and they're able to do it. A couple of names to keep an eye on for the Kansas City defense. We mentioned who the stars are, but Chamari Connor and Leo Chanel. Linebacker Leo Chanel and Chamari Connor, the safety will play nickel as well. Chamari Connor has generated There's recorded a defensive stop at the highest rate amongst all defensive backs in run stops.
Wow.
He's rushed the passer 36 times and has 11 pressures. He struggles against the pass, but against the run, which they're going to need against Saquon, he's been playing well against the run. Leo Chenal, the Chiefs as a team missed the least amount of tackles. Leo Chenal has missed 2 tackles.
Wow.
All year. 2 tackles. He's the top linebacker in the league. And because we know Saquon bust out, usually 1 or 2 runs, but that's going to come down to tackling. And those 2 guys, not the biggest names on that defense, but very, very important in the run game.
Certainly, the Chiefs' defense is really more of, outside of Chris Jones, a greater than the sum of its parts kind of defense.
Yep.
But it is the attention to detail schematically that sets them apart, in addition to just not making mistakes. That's kind of what we talked about them all along. They're an annoying team for a lot of people because their hallmark is great in pivotal moments, not going to make the big mistake here. Speaking of not making the big mistake, interceptions during the playoffs. Both of these quarterbacks managing to stay clean on that sheet. Dad, this game seems like a game. Obviously, it's the most tired cliche in the world, but an interception absolutely able to swing the balance of this game if teams aren't careful.
I mean, listen, turnovers have been part of the game since the beginning and have determined games since the beginning of football and will until the end of football. And it gives that extra possession, and you don't want to give Pat Mahomes an extra possession, and you don't want to give the Eagles an extra possession where they can burn clock and just run the ball. So, yeah, to continue the clean game obviously is huge.
Who is that more important for in this game? Like, who do you think would be in best position to overcome a turnover if it did actually pop up?
I think, wow. I mean, I think it's tough for Philly if they turn the ball over to give Pat Mahomes extra possessions. I think that's a difficult
That's
call.
interesting because, like, originally as I was sitting here thinking about it, it's like, all right, well, if you're the Chiefs, you have this great record, 17-0 in your last 17 one-score games. You play within the margins like that, you need to limit the kind of errors that pop up. But you're right, at the same time, on the other side, your game plan for the Eagles has been run the ball year long. You want to give Mahomes the fewest possible opportunities to influence the game. And so I think I agree with you on that. It would be much more detrimental to this Philadelphia Eagles team to give Patrick Mahomes any more chances at this than your game plan should allow.
All you talk about with Pat Mahomes is don't give them the ball last when they need to score. Don't give them the ball last when they need to burn the clock and run out the clock. Because he can do it. He and again, Andy Reid with his play calling, they can do it both. You just don't. That's the one thing when the Eagles are looking to score or take the lead, you do look at the clock.
Yep.
And you go like, oh, man, there's a lot of time left.
That's the ultimate sign of respect in sports, when you become one of the players that every time someone scores on the other team, everyone immediately clock checks and makes the left him too much time. Every dad in America raises up in their living room sofa and says, you left him too much time, and the rest is history on that. C is for champions that will shower in Lombardi sheen. Dad, if each team, if we were to say, hey, the Chiefs lose or the Eagles lose here, what's the epitaph on here that's more concerning to you? The Chiefs obviously have history on the line. They lose here. They lose out on that three-peat. Some important free agents like Trey Smith on that offensive line going to come up here. The Eagles on the other side, though, how concerning would it be they start to have that Chiefs problem?
Well, it's exactly right. That would be it for me. The Eagles having, oh, God, they're making it to the Super Bowl, but now they've lost 2 times in 2 years. They won it a few years ago, obviously, but to lose it to the Chiefs, we already know Buffalo and Baltimore have a Chief problem. But then you get to the Super Bowl, and Philly has the ability to make it, but can't get over the hump. There's no doubt it's like you're caught in the Kansas City Chief era right now.
It's so interesting because the Chief era feels a little more tenuous right now as Travis Kelce ages. That offensive line's going to get a shakeup and needs answers. The receiver room, you think, in theory, improves next year, but we don't really know for sure. This Eagles roster seems to have so much staying power with the youth on defense that's become the strength of that group at multiple levels, a Defensive Player of the Year candidate at linebacker.
Again, Philly has the better roster.
Yeah.
Philly has a better roster, but pick them at your own peril, which is unfortunately what I'm going to do.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end of the show here as we'll finish off with our picks for Super Bowl 59 coming up then. But coming up next, I want to talk to you guys. If we're going to talk about winning Super Bowls and what it takes, not many guests better than Joe Montana, the 4-time Super Bowl champion, going to join us next here at Radio Row on Gojo and Golic.
Super Week on DraftKings Network is brought to you by Tums. Whenever heartburn strikes, get fast relief with Tums. It's time to love food back again.
Shut up, Hal. Welcome back to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr. live here at Radio Row on a Friday. We're all slap happy. Life is great. And we need a little bit of help because we're trying to talk about winning Super Bowls, and neither of us on this set have done it. Nope. One man who has, the Hall of Famer Joe Montana, 4-0 in the big game, stopping by to tell us what's on the line for Mahomes, the Eagles, and more. Take a listen. As we finally march, we are slowly but surely at the end of a long week in the lead up to Super Bowl 59 here. No one better to talk about experience on this stage than our next guest, the Hall of Famer, 4-time Super Bowl champion, Joe Montana, kind enough to join us up here. Joe, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, fellas. Doing good.
We were all just commiserating before he came out. We were all at the Notre Dame national title game against Ohio State, and Notre Dame, made a nice comeback at the end. Started out well, put up a good fight, but still looking for that first title. You had one in 77 with my brother Bob, then in 88, and still it seems like they're close though.
Yeah, it's tough to the recruiting part of it is hard. Now I think the portal might help them a little bit, right. Because guys can move around. I think the coach has done a tremendously good job. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of respect from the players, and I think when you have that relationship, I think you get more from the guys. To be truthful, and hey, it's tough to win a national championship as it is tough to win a Super Bowl. Getting to the big games are tough. So this was a good try for the Irish, and hey, let's go. We got another one coming up. Another year.
Yeah. A bright future ahead for that program, no doubt. But you mentioned hard to do on that stage, even harder to do on this stage. We know the Chiefs are on the cusp of something that we've never seen in the Super Bowl era of winning 3 straight. As someone that won 4 Super Bowls and went undefeated on this stage here, what is the key to that kind of consistent longevity to win at this level and get back to here and be so successful?
Well, I think you have to have a certain amount of luck, and you have to be healthy, and a lot of teams can be. The Chiefs had some problems physically during the first part of the year. Now they're becoming healthy in the latter part, and things just have to kind of go your way. I mean, I don't care what you say. I always say that ball is shaped that way. When you drop it on the ground, you don't know whether it's coming to you or going away from you, and it's just things got to happen, and you got to have good players, and you got to have guys playing at the top of their game. And the Chiefs, they got probably the top player in the league at playing quarterback. And he's been very successful, and he's not afraid to be in any moment. And he's tough. He's going to be tough to beat again.
How different is it from they've been to multiple Super Bowls, as Mike mentioned. You're 4-0 in Super Bowls, of going into the first Super Bowl and then the third and fourth Super Bowl from a confidence level or preparedness level?
I think the first one you just have no idea what to expect, right? And the tickets, the parties, people were coming in on Thursday, and everybody's going, I want to go to this place, I want to go here, I want to go there. And I was lucky with Jennifer. She just took over everything and just let me have the week of doing nothing but worrying about football. And but I think after the first time you get there, I don't know if there's less pressure or more pressure, right, when you think about it, because you know what it's like. You know what it's like to win, and you don't want to know what it's like to lose it. Fortunate for us, we didn't lose one. But I think there's a lot of pressure on the Chiefs to go back out and try to get three-peat. We almost made it. We lost in the championship game against the Giants, for which we were headed into we were winning actually, and I ended up getting hurt in the game. It's probably my last. That was my farewell game, unfortunately, and then I ended up playing with the Chiefs. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on them to be able to go back and win it again. But they definitely have the ability to do it.
that pressure starts early, too. I'm always curious. You go all the way back to the end of the season when you're going through the spoils of victory and you're getting to enjoy all that. How difficult is it to then lock back in at the start of the next season and get yourself back in that mode with that same hunger?
I think the way I explain it, people say, well, after you win one, why would you want to win another? I go, do you ever see a kid who's never had chocolate?
Yeah.
And you give him a piece of chocolate, that's all that boy wants is chocolate, right? And that's the same feeling is once you get there and win it, now you know what it's all about. And now you want it more than you wanted it the first one. Because getting to the first one, yeah, you're all excited, but you really don't know what it's about till you win. And then once you win, now every season, you have expectations that's what you're after, and you know what you're after. So I think it becomes more and more difficult, more pressure on yourselves for all the players, no matter what position. But it's still a lot of fun.
Is that, wish I would have experienced it once in my 9 years. Is there anything, too, they talk about one of the reasons why it's hard to go back-to-back or win multiple Super Bowls is because that off-season is you get asked to go everywhere. It's like they call it the rubber chicken circuits, all the banquets and all the appearances and all the things you get to do where maybe the focus is taken off preparing for the next season.
Yeah, I got called in after my first Super Bowl by Bill Walsh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Excuse me, but I know this is a fantastic time for you, and you're trying to take advantage of all this. And he goes, but I just want to tell you, you need to be doing what you need to be doing to get us to be able to come back here again. And I didn't.
And it still worked out, so.
Well, not the next year.
Not
it was
the next
actually
year,
a rough
right.
one. But eventually, yeah, we did. But yeah, it's hard to everybody wants to take advantage of that while it's there. But that's the one thing that you really have to do is pay attention to what got you there. And yeah, it's fun to do it, but make sure you're taking care of it because you can do it. But
right.
I just wasn't focused.
Look, it's all part of the learning experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And that learning experience for Patrick Mahomes now has gotten him to a really interesting point where, for so long when we've talked about the great postseason quarterbacks in NFL history, it's been you, it's been Tom Brady, and now Patrick Mahomes on the cusp of this. I'm curious how you view him as one of your peers in terms of the all-time greats in this postseason.
Oh, I mean, you can look what he's done. I mean, he's sitting up there on the top for sure. I mean, he's fun to watch. I mean, he's one of those guys when he's on TV. Their games are all on TV.
Yeah.
Well, you got to search for him. I know that's crazy what's going on with the games now, but he's one of those guys that, he's at the top of the totem pole there.
As far as this game, when you look at Philly trying, they won it a few years ago. We're here a couple of years ago. You don't know what it's like to lose a Super Bowl and to come back from it. But it just seems like, to me, they have a better roster than Kansas City. But just like you, when everybody talked about the 49ers, you had talent, but they have Joe Montana. And for Kansas City, it's like, well, yeah, they have Patrick Mahomes. How much of a mental advantage is that?
For the Chiefs or for
the Chiefs?
Or against, I mean, everyone's put their trust in him from the very beginning, and he is not letting anybody down, right? And so that is a big relief because they know no matter how far they get behind, he can find a way to come back. He can score quickly. They can go on long drives, whatever they need to do. Philly, on the other hand, I think they're a more physical team, more running team, but those are the kind of teams that end up being pretty successful and have a good chance. That's why I think this is going to be an interesting game. If they can control the ball and they can get in the end zone, it's like cliche, right, for all football. But they got a great running game, obviously, and I think they just need to keep the ball, give Mahomes the minimum amount of times.
But getting in the end zone is key because the Chiefs have not been great in the red zone. Yeah. So, I mean, you can't settle for field goals. It is about getting in the end zone. Yep. And God knows when Philly gets close, they do that tush-push. Exactly. Would you like to be quarterback sneaking like that?
No way. I don't want somebody hitting me in the back.
So I'm all set on that. So, who do you like in the game this weekend?
I just think you know, everybody's going, well, hopefully Philly. I think it's going to be a good game, and you know, the Chiefs are tough to beat. I mean, everyone would like to see Philly win. It'd be fun, but I just think the Chiefs are just they're just playing at the top of their game. They are at this point in time. But like you said, can't kick field goals, and if they've been struggling in the red zone. So if Philly can get in the end zone and stay there and continue to keep the ball away from Mahomes, I think they got a shot.
I'm with you. I think it's going to be a great game this weekend, but this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty, and that's what they are right now, certainly is locked in and ready in that mode. Joe, we know you're here on behalf of Pfizer. What can you tell us about the program you guys have going on right now?
Yeah, I've been with Pfizer now for a number of years, and one of the things that we're trying to get out, the word out now, is that the CDC has lowered the at-risk age to 50 and above, and that you're 6 times more likely to be able to catch pneumococcal pneumonia, and that we're here just talking about you can reduce that by getting out and getting vaccinated. There's a great website that they have out called vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. A lot of great information on there, but if you have any kind of questions about your at-risk level, just get with your doctor, and he'll take care of you.
Information is key.
Get vaccinated. I've been vaccinated, so
I'm
a little older than 50.
Yeah, you and me both. You and me both. This one's not there. You got a few years.
Exactly, but to Joe's point, never too early to start taking your health seriously and making sure you're protected of all this. It's great advice from one of the best to ever do it. Joe, always great catching up with you. Really appreciate the time, man.
Pleasure,
Thank
man.
you.
Great seeing you guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Tell Bob I said hi.
Oh, I will.
Thanks. Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw quaking in their boots right now. Because as we look at the all-time list of most Super Bowl wins by a quarterback, Tom Brady obviously stands alone on the mountaintop with 7, followed closely behind Joe Montana, famously 4-0 in the big game. Terry Bradshaw 4 with the Steelers as well. And then there's Patrick Mahomes, tied right now with Troy Aikman and Earl Morrall at 3 apiece, has a chance to go up there and all of a sudden put himself in that rarefied Mount Rushmore air.
What separates, though, Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana have never lost a Super Bowl. They're 4-0. Tom Brady has won more Super Bowls, but he's lost Super Bowls. Pat Mahomes has lost Super Bowls. So where does that fit into the equation? It was like Michael Jordan, when you talk about NBA championships, he's 6-0.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw, with all due respect, feels like he's somewhat recused from this conversation traditionally, has a really thick goatee now that kind of scares me, but does a great job. Joe Montana is the interesting one considered in this entire equation, Dad, and I've heard people talk about as we've gone along with Tom Brady and with Patrick Mahomes, the recency has sort of pushed Joe to the periphery of this conversation. Do you think that's premature? Should we be having more of a discussion with him relative to these two guys in that all-time sphere?
I think it's recency bias. We just had Tom finish, and we have Pat Mahomes still ascending. Yeah. I mean, at an incredible rate. I don't think we can ever forget about what Joe did to go 4-0 in the Super Bowls. I mean, and the greatness of him, by the way, a separate room Hall of Famer as well. So while recency bias will lean toward, obviously, Mahomes, and it has toward Brady, I just think we keep needing to bring up the fact of Joe Montana, because I agree about Terry Bradshaw. That was more of a running scheme, obviously, big-time run, but Joe was Joe Cool, man.
Yeah, it's one of those things, too. All of this I go back to with Mahomes, and it's worth reminding, a lot of the way we talk about Mahomes is based on trajectory, and it's not to say that he couldn't hit a low the way the Patriots did in the middle of their dynasty, but it's just been so hot out the gate that it invites us to kind of have the ability to talk about a lot of this stuff at a high level, and it certainly changes the tenor of this entire week here, as much as this has been beaten into the ground by now. Stop me if you've heard this before. Mahomes and the Chiefs trying to do something no one's done in the Super Bowl era. So
yeah, I mean, and again, that's what we'll talk about. That grabs the headline because, again, he is a great quarterback, leading his team to possibly do something that has never happened in the NFL. So you're naturally going to start to spotlight him.
Speaking of something that's never happened in the NFL, we had a news break while we were listening to that interview. Tom Pelissaro at the NFL Network reporting 2025, the NFL Dublin,
Ireland.
Going to Dublin. So we got Ireland next year and Australia the year after here as the NFL continues stomping over the world at large.
Yes, they do.
Bringing football to the masses. Coming up next, we will bring you an interview with Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua to help finish off the week on Gojo and Golic. All right, joined on set now by Puka Nacua, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, who is hosting the Super Bowl Bowling Classic presented by Go Bowling and Pepsi Friday, February 7th at the Bowlero Kenner. All right, so bowling, has this always been something you've been into?
Yeah, my basketball coach in high school was actually taught a bowling class at our high school, so I was a part of that even when I wasn't registered in that class. So
wow.
I have a good amount of bowling reps under my belt, so I played a lot in college too just because I went going back to BYU and being close to home. I got my own bowling ball shipped out here for the event. I got a Los Angeles Rams bowling ball, so I think I'm pretty good. I average about a 200 score. So
wow.
Wait, you had bowling class in high school?
Yep.
That's incredible.
Seriously.
We would take the bus to the bowling alley. It was like right down the road, and yeah, it was fantastic.
Wow.
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
All right, so you're going to host. I'd imagine you're going to get in there and spin it a little bit, though?
Oh, 100%. I'm sure there's going to be some challenges. Everybody wants to see a good strike in there. Hopefully I can get a couple in a row, but it'll be fun. Yeah, and that's also if you go to the gobowling.com website, you get a free coupon for a free game of bowling, and I think everybody would enjoy that. It's always nice to get out on the lanes. I think the comparison would be like, man, everybody says when you hit a nice shot in golf, it brings you back to want another one. You get a nice strike, and you're like, man, I got to get that next one, right?
Plus,
there's feeling.
There are those that have run, instead of like a golf tournament, we're on a bowling tournament, and a bowling tournament is nice and more compact.
Oh, 100%.
You're not out there 5-6 hours walking around. It's
Yep.
right in the lanes, and you're done in a couple hours. It's
100%.
great.
You're going to hit a strike. You're going to hit the air blower. You're going to have a nice cool Pepsi after that. It'll be perfect.
See?
It's just dialed up.
You're ready to go, too. I just looked down and noticed we got a fresh manicure for the bowling coming up here?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I get them done all the time throughout the season. These are my money makers, so I got to make sure I take care of my babies. But,
there you go.
That's the difference. We look like pigs over here with our
horrible.
gnarled up hands.
Linemen,
This man understands he needs it to go the right way there. So, all right, so the bowling this weekend is going to be awesome.
Very cool.
Puka, for you guys, wild season overall. Obviously, last year you burst onto the scene. Everything's great. This year, right off the bat, dealing with the injury stuff. You're one of the most positive guys I've ever been around. So what was that experience like for you all of a sudden having to deal with that with your body and some issues?
Yeah, I attribute my support system to helping me get kind of through that moment. In the Rams facility, in my personal circle and stuff like that, my family. I have a lot of brothers who have played this game of football, people who have been a part of this football journey for a while, and to hear their feedback and hear their positive support helped me kind of get through that moment. But then also, man, the urge to I love playing football. It's what I've been doing since a little kid, and I don't want to be. It sucks being on that treatment table while you're watching the rest of the guys out there on the practice field strapping up their helmet, and they're going out to do what you want to do. So an urge, and we had some of the teammates, some of the rookies. Steve Avila, one of our who came in the same rookie class, he got injured kind of in the same time frame. We kind of had. So to be able to go with somebody and watch them kind of go through the process of, man, I got to show up every day to try to get better, and I'm trying to get to where I want to be as well, and to kind of have that journey together, it's a positive push when you see other people who have a different injury but also are trying to show up and be like, man, I'm trying to get back out there as well. So.
Every year is different, but next year, already heard from Matthew Stafford, says he wants to play again in 2025. Obviously, him and the Rams still have stuff to work out, but how important is he to have back on this team at the helm of this offense?
Yeah, I think the ship runs through him, and it's super exciting, and to be around him and to have him in the first 2 years of my career, I feel like I've definitely been spoiled for the people that I've been to be around him, but with him and Coop, so it's been absolutely fantastic, and I hope that we can do all the things to make sure he can play as long as he can. We've seen the LeBron James, the Tom Brady's of the world go hit their 40s and kind of be like, man, I think I could keep going for a couple years. It looks like he's having so much fun. I try to keep a new, fresh, young energy by him, so he feels young and spry. But he's always moving around. He's got young 4 daughters, so I know they keep him up on his toes all day too. So it's fun. It's fun being around him. I hope we get to keep him as long as we can.
Even though you're young in your career, I think you even realize the team is different every year. There's always some changes on the roster. And this has been kind of the year of the big trade in the NBA with a monster trade going on, starting with Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic, and now Myles Garrett requesting a trade. Now, Cooper Kupp didn't request a trade, but the team said they're going to trade him. How has that gone? Have you talked to him, or and just knowing full well that things can change?
Yeah, we had he spoke to our wide receiver group chat before the news had broke, and we've exchanged a couple of texts after that. Since then, I've been out here in the Super Bowl, so I haven't got a chance to really speak to him. I've been answering more questions about it, but it's definitely very interesting. Like you said, the team is so different after the year. We got a very good young core. We got a great defensive line. We got great guys on the offense who are young and moving around. So it's super exciting to feel the young energy that we got and to take advantage of the leadership that we've had with guys like Matthew, guys like Tyler Higbee, and guys like Coop, who have set and modeled the way for specifically for me of what it's like to be a professional in this game and in this league, but then also what it takes to be at the upper echelon of this league, and watching guys like Cooper come from the Triple Crown, and he's in our meetings, and I'm looking outside of the numbers because that's where we play as a wide receiver, and he's looking at the combinations in the run game, and he's looking at what the footwork is for the quarterback, and making sure that we're on time in our drops. And I'm like, there's so much more to this game of football that I'm still trying to learn, and I've been able to learn through him. But it's going to be exciting to have that challenge kind of on my own, and then make sure that I can use all of the tools that he gave me.
Yeah, do you feel like you're ready to step up and be one of the leaders on this team now after everything you've been through?
I feel like leaders all do things in a different way. I wouldn't say as much as I feel like people probably do think I talk a lot. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I'm the biggest verbal guy on the football field. I mean, I want my actions to lead the way. I want to guys see my physical play and the toughness and the moment of recognition of no fear, where you have to go out there and you can't fear getting hurt, you can't fear of failing. You just got to go out there and let it all and play each play as its own. So hopefully the guys in our locker room will see that, and hopefully it'll something that they can connect to.
I'm played this game for years, called games, and called a few of your games the last couple of years, and even as a former player, I get amazed, and now as an analyst, like Justin Jefferson, like Jamar Chase, how do you always seem to be open? I mean, it really kind of it baffles my mind that a guy with so many catches can be as open as you are.
Yeah, I think my body control. I think the game in basketball terms, in a sense, other than the physicality of when you're in the run game. I think as a wide receiver, I mean, it's like you try to find your one-on-one in the game of basketball. Who's a guy I can take? I think I can take to the basket. So. You find your way to create an edge, and then it also helps when you have one of the best quarterbacks to do it of all time, and he can put the ball anywhere on the football field. He makes your job definitely a lot easier. But then it provides a challenge, because then you get this year, I think in some of the defenses, to see two guys trying to guard me. I'm like, I got to beat this guy, but then I also got to beat this guy. But then that's the best thing about having a full team, and it requires all 11, because we have a great offensive mind in our coach in Coach McVay, and he's always dialing up the best way for us to succeed. So if they're putting two guys on one, he knows how to take advantage of that matchup.
As a former defensive lineman, let me say it'd be frustrating. If I was a D lineman rushing the quarterback and the throwing, my God, he caught another one. How was he catching them all?
Well, especially speaking of D linemen, I did want to ask, you guys talk about the young contributors on your team. Your guys' defense this year, lose Aaron Donald, one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time, and the young guys on this defense that you all went against during training camp and saw up close and personal there. When did you know you had such a special group of guys coming together there?
Man, I think especially when you take somebody in the first round, it's a lot of eyes on you. There's a pressure and a privilege to be able to perform early on in your career. And I think Jared Verse, from the moment he walked into our mini camp, he was ready, and he was trying to prove to everybody that this is where he belonged, and he's put in the work. And our whole D line, I think of Byron Young, who was in our rookie class last year, Braden Fisk, obviously with Verse and Fisk, the dynamic duo from Florida State. It's pretty scary when you see those guys start to collapse the pocket, and you're like, holy cow, I can't go anywhere. And it's a good thing that they're all on our team.
The law office of Verse and Fisk sounds like a pretty devistating combination.
Is Stafford like the father? You're like such a young team. You know, he's just
That's
like
pretty
the
much.
dad.
I call him Father Zeus. I mean, he's got all the power, and he's the overwatching eye.
There you go. The overwatching eye on one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Looking forward to another great season. So again, coming up, Super Bowl Bowling Classic presented by Go Bowling and Pepsi. Puka, one more time, tell people where they can find out information on what you guys got going on.
Yeah, you can go to gobowling.com, grab yourself a free coupon, and you'll see some information. We'll be out there tomorrow. Some of the other NFL guys will be out there. We'll be out there. Hopefully, I'll be on lane 16. You'll see me with my Los Angeles Rams ball, and I'll be out there trying to get a couple strikes out there.
Will any lane have the guardrails up for those that don't bowl as
maybe
well?
For my warm-up, probably just a couple bank shots, but after that, it's time to get serious.
All right, there we go. All proceeds, by the way, going to benefit the NFL Foundation's mission of supporting aspiring football players in communities all over the country. So a great event, a great cause, and a great guy at the helm. But Puka, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Super Week on DraftKings Network is brought to you by Tums. Whenever heartburn strikes, get fast relief with Tums. It's time to love food back again.
Oh my God, it's so juicy. Hey everybody, welcome to Gojo Eats New Orleans, presented by Tums. I'm Mike Golic Jr., here looking for the best spots to eat ahead of the big game or anytime you're in the Crescent City. Because we know food is a big part of New Orleans, so it's easy to go big on trying new foods, which can sometimes make it not so easy on you. So whenever heartburn strikes, get fast relief with Tums. It's time to love food back again. And what's not to love about Bananas Foster? It's one of the best desserts out there, so I'm headed to the place that invented it, over in the French Quarter at Brennan's. All right, we're out here in the beautiful courtyard at Brennan's with Christian Pendleton, the general manager here. Christian, we really appreciate you having us out here, and just want to give people a picture of how long you guys have been here as one of the premier institutions in New Orleans.
Brennan's itself started in 1946. It wasn't successful until they figured out that they needed to create a new meal period. So they created breakfast at Brennan's. So what the whole world knows as brunch started at Brennan's in 1946.
Wow. All right, so the world owes you a debt of gratitude.
Yes.
White women everywhere who have co-opted this
Absolutely.
now need to trace their roots back to Brennan's.
Every gentleman that's been required to get out of bed, shower, and shave, and put on something nice to go to breakfast can blame Brennan's for that. But it is still our busiest meal period by far. We welcome tens upon tens of thousands of guests every year to come have breakfast at Brennan's.
If you haven't come and had breakfast at Brennan's, you haven't really been to New Orleans. So excited to get in here and try some today. All right, I'm here with Chris Padalino, the executive sous chef and pastry chef here at Brennan's. Everyone obviously knows the Bananas Foster around here.
When the managers get hired in, they'll have to be trained to make Banana Fosters.
If you had to describe Brennan's in just a couple of words to someone who is coming here, how would you describe this place?
It's beautiful and unique in its own way and still has roots in its history. We can take, the simplest dish and make it something very creative and very beautiful with like its own little weird twist to it.
Could not have said it better, which is why we brought you over here. Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Excited to continue to eat our way through this wonderful restaurant.
Good, hopefully.
Now, Bananas Foster invented at this restaurant in 1951. We go back a little bit to 1949. New Orleans became one of the major ports, receiving the fresh bananas and goods coming in from Central and South America. A young lady by the name of Miss Ella Brennan stepped in. Miss Ella remembered this recipe here when they was kids. Her mother used to warm up different types of fruit over brown sugar, cinnamon butter. We call it good mom right there. And we drop these bananas in there. See how it's nice and bubbly? And on 3, here we go.
Flambe.
1, 2, and fire, baby. Yeah.
There we go.
Take our bananas, and we put this over right over some ice cream. Look, 78 years later, Bananas Foster is the most ordered thing on this menu.
Wow. Let's try and get the perfect bite of this here. Get a little bit of everything. I love ice cream too, so I am especially grateful for Ella's contributions to society here. All right, here we go. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's perfect, and it's so many different textures at once, so many different flavors at once.
One ingredient we never run out of is bananas for sure, baby.
This isn't just for show either. I'm going to eat all of this because I have self-control issues when it comes to dessert. Oh. Oh, there's heaven. That's really good. As I say, this ain't for the camera. This is from my soul. All right, thank you to the folks at Brennan's for making us feel right at home. Can confidently say, and still, the best Bananas Foster in the game. So, if you go through and get all that deliciousness, but you find yourself feeling a little bit of heartburn afterward, don't let it keep you on the sideline. Try Tums' new gummy bites, featuring a soft and easy to chew format to help for fast relief of occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, sour stomach, upset stomach. It's available at Amazon, Target, and all major retailers nationwide. This has been awesome. We have eaten our way through the Crescent City here. Now we're ready to enjoy the big game. Let's go.
Man, you've eaten well.
No one has ever needed Tums more than I have after that.
Oh,
a sincere thank you to the folks at Cafe Beignet, Parkway Tavern and Bakery, Sylvain, and, of course, the world-famous Brennan's for all hosting us this week in the lead-up to it. They were phenomenal. They were super welcoming. And most importantly, Dad, they were delicious.
And again, I'm impressed with the size bite you take. When you know you're going to have to talk about it, you don't take a little bite so you can enunciate. You take a full man-sized bite. And you throw enunciation out the window.
The worst thing I learned about myself during this process is that I hold the spoon like an absolute ape.
You do.
God rest his soul, I always used to laugh at the way John Madden gripped the microphone.
Yeah.
Like he was holding the mic like a grudge. And I looked, I am a 4-finger spoon holder.
I didn't want to say anything.
It's because the size of the bites. You need all of that force there. I can't just 2-finger that thing and expect to hold the massive spoon and forkfuls that I try and trough into my mouth.
That's a you problem.
It is. It's deeply disturbing. I'm sorry you guys all had to see that. But again, thank you to the folks at Tums and all the fine people here. Thank you to everyone who joined us this week at Radio Row. Too many guests to name. Obviously, today, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Milroe, Puka Nacua, and the Hall of Famer Joe Montana were the ones here. But all week long, an awesome job by all the guests here. Certainly the crew, the staff, everyone here at Gojo and Golic at the DraftKings Network that helped put this all on and make it happen. We'll still be here Monday.
Yes, we will.
Just not at this set over in the Convention Center in New Orleans, which, thank God, because while I love Radio Row and I love the Super Bowl, Dad, by the end of the week, being locked inside this convention center with the stale air, the weird overhead fluorescent lights, and no sight of sunshine takes its toll on all of us.
And too many human beings, it's a cesspool of germs.
Yes, it is right now, as Dad is feeling that on the way out. And so we're going to try and get to the finish line as best we can here. Know this, that, and the third this week, as we've had so many great guests here. Again, you can download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Leave us a 5-star rating. Check out the DraftKings channel network, wherever you get it. You obviously have the pregame power-up still coming up later today. Pregame power-up special edition Sunday morning before the Super Bowl that you and I will both be a part of as well, alongside Trey, Marshall, Claudia Bellafato, and more. Check that out there at the Gojo and Golic YouTube channel, where you can check out all the interviews from this week that are up in their entirety. Dad, all that's left to do is to pick the game. Super Bowl 59, Chiefs and Eagles. We have talked about it till we're blue in the face here. The game line, Chiefs still 1.5-point favorites. The over-under 48.5 in this game. What do you like in this game, Dad? You've got to make the pick and finally put it on wax here. Who are you picking? Give me a final score.
I mean, I was picking Philadelphia from the beginning. I didn't, not from the beginning of the season. I had Detroit and Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But I think Philly is just playing great ball. I think they're more complete than Kansas City. Though anytime you bet against Kansas City, you take your risk in your own hands. But I just think they can control the ball with Saquon. I mean, it's tough to stop a great running game without loading up the box, and you do that, you're susceptible to the pass. Now, Steve Spagnuolo already the most Super Bowl rings as a D coordinator, looking to add his 5th, so you got to give him the benefit of the doubt in it. But I just think the Eagles will control the ball too much. Kansas City has struggled in the red zone, so I see them getting 2 touchdowns, but also in the red zone getting 2 field goals. So that gives them 20 points. And I think if my math is correct. And I'm going, and I think Philly's going to go. I think Philly's going to win 27-20. Going 27-20. I think while winning by a one score, Kansas City has done. They have struggled in the red zone, and I think that can catch up to them.
All right, so the Eagles win, cover obviously, since they're underdogs in this game,
and the
under hits right now. You're a better man than me with the gumption there. I made myself a promise after conference championship weekend. I knew we were going to have 2 weeks, and I almost did it like a time capsule. I locked it in a little box, and I told myself, you're going to hear a lot over the next couple of weeks. You're not picking against the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I today open that time capsule, and I look into the camera and say, I'm not picking against the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to win. I'll go 27-25, and I'll say they win, they cover, and we hit the over.
Yeah, hit the over.
In this game, Dad, they've just been a team that's had too many solutions for whatever problems opposing defenses have. This one, interesting matchup, less inclined to challenge the tackle issues that Kansas City's had, better equipped to, I think, account for the quick passing game there. It's going to be the difference of how they account for guys like Travis Kelce and Xavier Worthy, whether they're going to stick with a lot of the zone, the match zone they've played, whether they're going to man it up here. Either way, I think Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes find a way to do what hasn't been done, win 3 Super Bowls in a row and cement their legacy.
One thing I know, both teams want to get this game going.
So do we.
Yes.
Let's kick this thing off already. Thanks to everyone for tuning in all week long. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you Monday.